What's up, fellow nerds? My name is Stephanie and welcome to For the Love of Nerd. Now today I want to talk a little bit about bookshelf tours. They are some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube. I love seeing other people's book collections. I don't know why. I have such a fascination with the books that other people own, but I love it. Even when I just go over to a friend's house, one of the first things I do if I see that they have a bookshelf is to snoop on what they have. I love it. I don't know why. The other thing I love is to show people my book collection, or I guess I should say more appropriately, our collection, because when Josh and I got married, we fused everything, and that's part of the reason that our book collection is so big, because I had a lot of books coming into the marriage, but Josh had a lot too. So now we have probably more than we should. But yeah, I wanted to quickly share that with you guys. I'm not going to do an in-depth bookshelf tour right now. If that's something that you guys want to see, I would gladly take the time to show you every single book that we own. But at the moment, it's just a little bit too much work until I know that some of you out there really want to see it. So I thought I'd do an abbreviated one today just to kind of show you some of the really cool stuff we have, because Josh and I both have been collecting books since we were little kids. I mean, I still have some Heartland books. I don't know if I should confess to that, but I do. I still have some that I read as a child. But I wanted to show you guys, share it with you. Let's get started. So yeah, I'll just start with the bookshelf that I was actually sitting in front of. This is a smaller bookshelf that's in the corner of our library, and I'm sure you can see the feet of our stuffed owls up there. If you guys are interested in seeing some of the other collections that I have, let me know. I collect a lot of different things, including owls. So yeah, if you want to see that, let me know. But this is the first shelf on this little bookshelf in the corner that we have. So this is the second shelf on the same bookshelf, and I'm not sure why I didn't start with the subsections that we have in our library. We do actually have things separated out very clearly. We have them separated out by children's books and middle grade. Then we have it separated by adult fiction, and then theology books and Christian living, that sort of thing, and then nonfiction downstairs. So we're actually right smack dab in the middle of the children's section. That's why you can see a lot of books for younger kids in this section. All of our adult books are actually behind me, and you'll see those in a second. But yeah, if it didn't make any sense as to the way that it was arranged, it's because I was a doofus and started right in the middle. But yeah, you can see some of Rick Riordan's books there, and he's got more down on the bottom shelf, which we'll see in just a second. So yeah, this is the last shelf on this bookshelf, and as you can see, got some more kids books on there, and we actually have the start of the series of Unfortunate Events over there on the right. And the rest of them, unfortunately, are on a different bookshelf because we just didn't have enough room. Here we have the next bookshelf in our library. It's another little short one, and you can see the rest of the series of Unfortunate Events right there. And also these books right here, these ones. These are the Unicorns of Baromir, which I read as a child in one of the series that really got me into reading. And I realize it's dorky to, you know, promote them now, but I love them. So if you guys haven't checked them out, I think they're really cool. So this is the next shelf down, and this is where you can see more of the books that we've been collecting from childhood. You can see the Princess Diary books, which are actually really interesting to read, even though they're for kids, and the Boxcar Children books. And then I have almost all of the Jedi Apprentice books, and I am not ashamed of that. But yeah, so I will eventually read them again one day because they're so short, but also once Josh and I start having kids, these books will be great for them to have around. So I'm not ashamed that I kept them. I'm actually kind of proud of it. Okay, so it's a little harder to see what's on this shelf. I apologize for that. It's kind of in the bookshelf's in a corner, and there's mess everywhere, and I'm trying to show you as little mess as possible. So you can see there that the Percy Jackson Greek Gods and Greek Heroes are on that shelf. And also The Wizard of Oz, obviously. That's a pop-up book. Again, not ashamed. But yeah, so we had to kind of condense shelf space because we were running out. So all of our kids' picture books actually ended up in this stack mostly, which hopefully will change once we get a different bookshelf. But we're kind of waiting until we move so that we don't have to set it up and then move it again immediately, because that would be stupid. But yeah, so we're gonna move on to the next little bookshelf over here. Okay, so moving on to our third bookshelf. This is actually where the kids' books is actually supposed to hop into picture books, but like I said before, we're running low on space. So we have that awkward little bit of kids books over to my left. I think it's also your left. I don't really know. But those with the dealings with dragons and everything, those books, they're part of the kids section. And then we have our picture book section in the middle. And then over on the right, my right, I hope it's your right too, where you see Aesop's Fables, that actually begins the adult section. So the rest of this bookshelf is adult fiction, and then the rest of the bookshelves in the library are adult fiction. I don't know if that made sense. Hopefully it did. So moving right along, here you can see there's some more classics on this shelf, including Dante's Inferno, Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales, and Jane Austen. There is a book missing, the one that's right next to the one that says Sean Astin. I'm not sure what that book is. Sometimes we'll take books off the shelves and set them down, and then I'll forget that they're actually supposed to be there. So this is the last shelf on this bookshelf, and I brought them out a little bit so you could see them because the shelves are really deep. As you can see, I am currently reading First Writer's Call. I usually take off the book jacket while I'm reading so that I don't damage it. So yeah, that book's downstairs. But most of my Green Rider series books are right here. Firebrand is actually up on the next bookshelf because unfortunately it wouldn't fit with the other ones, which made me really sad because they look so nice all together. But yeah, some interesting books on this shelf too. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas is probably one of my favorites on this shelf. So there's no good way to show you this bookshelf because it's in the corner and it's really tall, so hopefully I'm not jiggling around too much. But yeah, there's Firebrand and the Red Rising trilogy, which is a trilogy that I really enjoyed. I actually won the first book from a giveaway and then bought the other two books and enjoyed it immensely. So yeah, one of my favorite series. So you guys should definitely check that one out. Okay, we're a little smushed, but I think we're actually okay. So the interesting thing about this bookshelf is that it actually reflects more of Josh's reading taste than my own. A lot of these books on this shelf are actually his. Yeah, we do have pretty different reading tastes. He tends to enjoy Michael Crichton, that sort of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Michael Crichton's an excellent, excellent writer. It's just not someone that I really enjoy that much. But yeah, there's a lot of books on the shelf actually that I didn't even buy, like that Patricia Cornwell book. Someone gave that to me. It's not a book that I would pick up on my own. So still a little smushed, but I think I've mostly got everything in the frame and hopefully I'm not jiggling you guys around too much. Another interesting shelf. There's a lot of Ted Dekker on this shelf. And he really was the first one to kind of get me into more of thriller books, but I haven't read him in a long while. And I'm hoping to get back into his books. And you'll notice actually that the first book is missing because Josh was supposed to read it and never did. So yeah, that's downstairs. But I never read Green, which was the last book. And I'd have to start all over because I completely forget everything that happened. And also, I do want to point out that Three Musketeers is also supposed to be on the shelf. And that's another one Josh is supposed to be reading, and it's downstairs. Okay, this is another interesting shelf because this is another one that's dominated by books that Josh brought into our marriage. And he's read all the David Eddings one. I haven't. It just feels like a big undertaking for something that I'm not sure that I'd enjoy. So if you guys have read any of David Eddings' books, let me know down in the comments. Let me know if there's something that's worth my time. But yeah, I haven't really considered picking them up at all. So I realized that this one is a little bit harder to see and I apologize for that. It's really kind of down in the corner and hard to get to. But the main source of pride and joy on this shelf is actually my collection of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. I love it very much. I've read it a couple times. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books. And you'll notice that almost a complete set of the Outlander series is on the shelf as well. And I actually haven't read any of them. And normally I'm opposed to buying books that I haven't at least read the first book in the series and really enjoyed it. But with this particular series, I've heard a lot of really good things. Plus, I got these books from a library sale and I paid 50 cents for each of them, I think. So I paid like $2 in full and I just couldn't pass up a bargain like that. Like, when would I ever find books like that for that cheap again? Never, probably. So that's the reason that I have them. Haven't read them yet, but I'm planning on reading Outlander this year, so hopefully I won't regret spending that $2. Okay, so I'm actually not sure how much of this shelf you guys can actually see because I can't really get behind the camera at this point just because of the way the bookshelves are arranged. But you can probably at least see that I have Les Mis on this shelf, and I've actually read the entire book and I really, really enjoyed it. That's one of one of the reading accomplishments I'm most proud of, is reading through that book. You'll also notice some Khaled Hosseini books on here. I read The Kite Runner, really enjoyed that. I believe the Iliad is on here as well, and the Odyssey. And oh, this book right here, this one, this is the Legend of Zelda manga, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm looking to get some of the other books in the series because I really enjoyed this one. And then you'll notice all the way over on the right is actually The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I have not read it, but I have heard that it is excellent, so let me know what you guys think about that series, because that's another one that I'm not sure I want to dedicate time to unless I know that it's really good. Okay, moving on to the next bookshelf. I realize actually that these shelves are a little bit longer than the one behind me, so I'm going to have to actually split up the shelves, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. So on this shelf, you'll notice some more of the Wheel of Time series. Not the whole thing, but some of it. And then I have a bunch of Nancy Drew books, and I'm not actually sure why I still have them because I haven't read all of them and I didn't really enjoy them all that much. So I think I'm just holding on to them out of stubborn pride, which doesn't surprise anyone who knows me. But yeah, still have those for some reason. Not really sure why. Over here on the end of the shelf, we have the beginning of my Stephen King collection. There's about 3 shelves worth of Stephen King because I love him. But yeah, all these books are in alphabetical order by author last name according to section, if you guys didn't realize that. But yeah, here's the beginning part of my King books. So yeah, more Stephen King books. Not a ton to say about these, except for I do have Stephen King Goes to the Movies, and I don't know why I thought this, but I thought that book was about Stephen King talking about movies, but it's actually just a collection of short stories that have been turned into movies, and I already had them already, so that one was kind of pointless, but I think I got it on Thrift Books for like $3. So I'm not that upset about it, but it is kind of a repeat of what I already have. So there's the first half of the shelf, and then here is the second half. You'll see that I have a number of different editions of these books. I got some of them at thrift stores, some of them at used bookstores, some of them I got brand spanking new, just kind of depended on where I could find them. And here's my second full shelf of Stephen King. Some of the books that I'm really proud of on this shelf, you'll see right here, The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. I actually found that at a used bookstore not too long after it came out for, I think, less than $10. So I'm really proud of being able to find that. And then you'll notice next to it, The Storm of the Century. That's one that's, at least in my experience, hasn't been easy to find. So when I was able to buy it for about $10, I was really, really happy about that. And then you'll notice a little bit further along that I actually have The Silver Bullet as well, which I don't know anyone else who reads Stephen King who actually has been able to find that book. So that makes me really happy. And while we're talking about kind of hard to find Stephen King books, you'll notice the Bachman books right in the middle of the shot there. It does include a copy of the book Rage, which is actually out of print. So I didn't actually know that until after I bought this book. So I'm kind of proud of myself for that. And then over here, sorry for the awkward angles, but you'll notice that I have the entire Dark Tower series, and some of those books at the end there I got on bargain price, and they actually have full color illustrations. I think the last 3 have full color illustrations in them. So yeah, that's another thing that I kind of stumbled across them, but now I'm really happy that I have them. But yeah, so you'll notice The Shining and The Stand down there at the end. Some really, really solid King books on this shelf. Okay, I apologize for the bad lighting down here, but I can't get my light down here into this tight corner, so we're just gonna have to put up with it. But you'll notice the last little bit of my King books. I do have some more downstairs, but those are his nonfiction books. And you'll actually notice that I have some Dean Koontz books. Some of those are Josh's, some of them are mine. I have read a couple of his books, but I haven't really found one that I enjoy yet. So if you guys know of a Dean Koontz book that's blows your mind, knocks your socks off, let me know, because so far I haven't really found one that I've really enjoyed all that much, unfortunately. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but a couple books to take note of. On Such a Full Sea is a book that I discovered last year, and I'm trying to get more people to read because it was so good. And it came out of nowhere. Like, I just couldn't believe how good it was. So yeah, you guys should read that book. That one's excellent. And you'll notice To Kill a Mockingbird, which I read last year as well and really enjoyed. And then you'll see I've got some C.S. Lewis books, his Space Trilogy, and then Josh and I both had a copy. Josh and I both had copies of the Chronicles of Narnia, but neither of us wanted to give up the copies that we had, which you'll see is a running theme. But so that's one set of the Chronicles of Narnia. Okay, now we're really getting down into the dungeon back here. This is the last awkward shelf that I have to show you guys. So hopefully once we move, it'll be a little bit better. But you'll notice a couple interesting things here. The Star Wars book that you see is actually the original Star Wars trilogy, just in novel form. My mother-in-law got that for me, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to. I'm very much looking forward to it. You'll also notice that we have Wicked, at least the first two books. I think there's 3 in there. I can't really remember. But yeah, if you guys want to know my thoughts on that, let me know. They're not the thoughts that you hear from most people who've read it. But yeah, and then I'm sure you guys can see over there in the corner the beginning of George R.R. Martin's The Game of Thrones. So I'll move the camera here in just a second and show you the rest of those. So yeah, here's the rest of the Game of Thrones books. I've read all 5 of them. I think Josh has only read the first 4, and we're just waiting for the next book, whenever that may happen. The only other thing of note on this shelf is the Cormac McCarthy books that I've really been getting into. I really enjoy him for some reason. Normally, authors who write like him, I find them to be a little bit cumbersome, but I've really been enjoying it. All right, and now we're moving away from the awkward bookshelf, which is nice. So this bookshelf you guys are probably a little bit familiar with because we filmed it in front of it before. But yeah, you guys will notice the Twilight books up there in the left-hand corner. And you guys can ask me my thoughts about those, I guess. I mean, I'm willing to talk about it. Like I said, I've been collecting books since I was younger, so that's part of the reason I still have them, is nostalgia. But yeah. And you'll also notice Watchmen in the middle there. One of the first graphic novels actually that I got back into and really enjoyed. Oh, and A Monster Calls, you'll see towards the right side there. One of my favorite books that I've read in recent years. You guys should all go check that out. So here's another shelf where you can see that Josh and I couldn't come to an agreement on whose books we were getting rid of. You can see that we have 2 copies of Eldest over there. Now, I know that there's been a lot of negative feelings around the Aragon series, but like I said, I read those when I was younger, and I feel differently about them now, but still there was enough nostalgia surrounding them that I wasn't willing to get rid of them. But you'll also notice on the shelf that I have Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which I love, and also the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe, which is one of my favorite books that I have. So moving right along, you'll notice that, again, Josh and I couldn't decide whose books we were keeping. You'll see that there's several copies of the first Harry Potter book in there, and then I believe I have my copies lined up first here on the right, and then I think the rest of Josh's are actually down below, but we do have 2 complete sets of Harry Potter, and as the illustrated versions come out, we'll have a 3rd complete set. So if we have 3 kids, you know, they'll all be able to read Harry Potter all at once, which is ideal. But yeah, and then you'll also notice that I have J.K. Rowling's Robert Galbraith books over there as well, which I'm really enjoying. I haven't read Career of Evil yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So moving right along, and of course there's a little bookmark hanging down into the shot. That's cool. But you'll notice the rest of the Harry Potter series. I believe those are Josh's copies, and also The Casual Vacancy, which I did read, and still not sure how I feel about it. I'm probably going to go back and read it again and hope maybe I'll feel differently. But you'll also notice that A Darker Shade of Magic is on there. And I do want to get the last book in the series because I got the second one for Josh for his birthday last year. And neither of us have read the last book. So hopefully at some point here we'll be getting the third book. So once again on this shelf, you'll notice that Josh and I couldn't agree which copies to get rid of. Again, there's a lot of books like that we own. But yeah, you'll see we have multiple copies of The Lord of the Rings, which I'm not ashamed of that either, really. It's such a good book. But you'll notice this shelf has a lot of classics. That short little book over on the right is actually War and Peace. I'm just trying to work up the courage to actually read it. But yeah, some interesting books. Oh, and there goes Calcifer. I don't know if you guys have met him yet, but you will. He just doesn't like to sit still, but he does like to walk in the middle of clips. Okay, so we've actually moved out into our hallway now. We have 2 little bookshelves out in our hallway, and this is where the majority of our kids' books are, like our middle grade books. So once again, we're kind of out of order. This is the second bookshelf in the kids' books section. So yeah, I'm sorry. I realize that is confusing, and if I ever do a proper bookshelf tour, I'll actually start at the beginning where I'm supposed to. But like I said before, I did have all the Heartland books, and you can see them right in the middle there, along with a lot of Saddle Club and some Animal Arc over to the left. I don't know what to say to justify that other than I couldn't bear to get rid of them. I actually got rid of all the Goosebumps books that I had, and I actually regret that very much. So I'm glad that I hung on to these. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. I am a hoarder and I have a problem. Moving on down the line here, the thing of note on this shelf is actually the Unicorn Chronicles, which is kind of right in the middle of the shelf. This is a series that I haven't heard many people talk about, even at the time when I was reading it, which I think I was in, when the first time I read the first book, I think I was actually in 1st or 2nd grade. So I've had that book, the first book at least, for a while. And the last book, The Last Hunt that you see right there, actually didn't come out until years and years later. And there's actually a really cool story behind that book. If you guys are interested, I will tell it someday. But that is one of my most prized books that I own. So Calcifer's over here to my left. Actually, let me see if I can show you guys. He's trying to sneak into our room because I have the door open to get this shot, but he keeps trying to sneak past me as I'm trying to film this. So yeah, you guys enjoy that. That's Calcifer. But yeah, we're talking about these things right here, and I hope you enjoyed that shot of my toilet. But this is the last shelf on this bookcase, and there's a couple things that are interesting about this one. You'll notice, I don't know if you guys can see over closer to the left, I have the Spiderwick Chronicles. I haven't read them yet, but they're so short and fast that I probably will try to do that sometime this year. And then right in the middle there, you'll see the Sea of Trolls trilogy. I actually didn't realize it was a trilogy until last year, I think, and I was, 25? So I haven't read the last book, but I enjoyed the first 2 books when I read them as a kid. So I got the third one, and hopefully I'll be finishing that pretty soon here. And then you'll see over on the right a lot of my Cornelia Funk books. I want to get more, especially the, what is that series called? Reckless, the Reckless series. That is, I'm really, really impressed by the Reckless series, and I don't have any of the books yet, so I need to get those, and I've kind of been waiting for her to continue to put those out. But she also, I heard, has a kind of companion novel coming out for the Inkheart series, which is one of my favorite series ever. So I'm super excited about that. I will promote Inkheart until the day I die. It's an excellent, excellent book, so you guys should definitely read that. This is the other little bookshelf that we have in our upstairs hallway. It's a very tiny shelf. It only has two levels to it. And this one actually holds most of Josh's Animorph books. I believe he has all of them. So I'm not the only one who hung on to books from our childhood. Thank you, Calcifer. But yeah, I think he's got all of them. So that'll be, we'll never have to buy our kids books because they'll have them all already. But yeah, I don't have much to say about the Animorph books because I never read them. So here's the second shelf on that little bookshelf, and I hope you can't tell how dirty it is. You probably can, but oh well. It has the rest of the Animorphs, and then you'll see some Animal Arc over on the right there. And I believe Tuck Everlasting is on that shelf as well. So this is a small little bookshelf that we have in our bedroom, and this is the tail end of the adult fiction, and then right underneath it goes into theology and Christian living. So for this shelf, you'll notice H.G. Wells is right there, smack dab in the middle. Andrew actually gave me that, and I haven't read any of it yet, but I'm hoping to get to that. And then you'll notice that Tad Williams is over there in the corner. I haven't read him either, but I'm hoping to one day because I heard that he is really good. And I'm now just looking at this bookshelf and realizing that Our Town by Thornton Wilder is actually right smack dab in the middle of Tad Williams where he's not supposed to be. So that's annoying. But I also have The Importance of Being Earnest on there, which is one of my favorite plays. I love that play so freaking much. And then you'll also notice that the only manga series that I own, there was another one that we saw that Josh owns, but the only one that I own is over there on the left. And that's one of those series that's more of a candy series. And I'm sure you can hear Calcifer. Shut up, Calcifer. Absolute Boyfriend is more of a light and fluffy and not really all that serious series, but I still enjoy it. Okay, we're not going to spend very long here because I'm sure that everyone is cringing internally because of the way it looks, but they're too big to fit on this goofy little shelf, and it's the only shelf we have, so I apologize. But you'll see the tail end of adult fiction, and then it goes into theology and Christian living. So if you guys are interested in seeing a more in-depth tour, especially of the theology and Christian living, let me know and I'll have Josh do one of those because he is the one who reads those more. They're not really my thing. This last shelf here in our bedroom is actually mostly Josh's books because he was a youth ministry minor, so he has a lot of books on youth ministry and that sort of thing. I haven't read many on the shelf, to be totally honest with you. I have read A Heart for the City, which is an excellent, excellent book about urban ministry, which Josh and I both took in college, and I would recommend taking a class like that to anyone. But yeah, like I said before, if you guys want to know more about these books, I can have Josh maybe do a little bookshelf tour of this section. So now we are downstairs at the foot of our stairs, and I apologize for the poor lighting. There's not really a good way to get lighting into this corner of the living room. But this is more of our theology and Christian living books. Some of them are mine that you'll see. I actually got the Answers books from Ken Ham himself. He came to our college and spoke, so that was really cool, and I'm really happy to have those. And I actually did read The Church as well, which was a very interesting book. I read it for school. It's not something I would probably pick up on my own, but I don't regret reading it. So again, more of theology and Christian living, and I don't have a ton to say about this shelf in particular because I haven't read many of them, except for Radical. Radical was something that I would definitely recommend. But yeah, so that's about the last of the, no, that's a lie. I have more, but yeah, I wanted you guys to be able to see what we have. So I apologize for the super awkward angle and the mess that you can see over in there in the corner, but honestly, there's not a ton to see on this shelf anyway. You can see all our yearbooks there from high school and college, and the writer's market, which is wildly out of date, but I got it for like $1. But yeah, not much going on the bottom there, which is why I'm not going to try too hard to show it to you guys. Now we are downstairs in the living room proper, where we have most of our nonfiction books, and I do have some interesting nonfiction books. I mean, Josh does as well, but I don't know his as well. So if you want to know more about the ones that he has, you'll have to ask him. But starting over towards the left, you'll notice that there are some nursing textbooks from college. There's a humanities textbook in there. There's literature textbooks because I just noticed that there's some yearbooks in there too. I'm not sure why they're there. I don't know. The order of these books is actually kind of mixed up because of the way that the bookshelves are spaced throughout our house and the space that we had available. It's a little janky at the moment, but hopefully when we move into our bigger place, we'll have more room to put books on the bookshelves where they actually fit, hopefully. But yeah, you'll notice that there's a Detroit Cars book. That's Josh's. If you want to know more about that, you'll have to ask him. You'll notice there's a Zelda book, which I noticed that they have one very similar that came out and I want very badly. And Grey's Anatomy that's on there. My mother-in-law got that for me. And I've thumbed through it a little bit, but I haven't really read it. I might one day, who knows. And then Josh's Guinness Book of World Records over there in the corner. Yeah, we have some interesting nonfiction books, that's for sure. There's not a ton of books on this shelf that'll probably be of interest to many people, but I don't know if I told you guys I was a nursing major in college. That's not what I'm doing. That's not my job. And if you guys really want to know about it, I'll tell you. You just have to ask. But yeah, for some reason I hung on to all my textbooks. I'm still not sure why, but then again, I hang on to a lot of books. But yeah, not a lot going on this bookshelf. So this is the last shelf on this particular bookshelf. Just a couple of things of note. You'll see all the way over on the left a book called Stiff, which is about cadavers and is super interesting. So that's by Mary Roach. You guys should check that book out. It's nonfiction, like I said, but very, very interesting. You'll notice that I have a jigsaw puzzle book, which, like the name says, there's puzzles in there, and that's one of my favorite books that I have. I love that book. A couple anatomy books, Cars right there in the middle. That one belongs to Josh. And then there's a thesaurus and a dictionary over there, which I asked for I think both the thesaurus and the dictionary, I asked for them for Christmas was when I was in middle school. So I was kind of a weird kid. I asked for stuff like that in middle school. And then, of course, another book about Egypt, which I don't think I've read that one in particular, but I do have a lot of them. And I love Egypt. Egypt is so cool. So this is the last bookshelf that we have in our living room. It's right by the door to the kitchen. And this bookshelf, like I said before, everything down here kind of got messed up. So the order of things isn't exactly right. So this is kind of the leftover remnant of the Christian living and theology section. I didn't want to move all those ginormous books off the bookshelf you just saw because they don't really fit on this smaller one. So that's why this stuff is over here. But you will notice that I do have some of my nonfiction Stephen King books over there in the corner. And another book of note is actually a book called The Council of Dads, which is about a man who got a tumor in his leg and he thought he was going to die. And he had 2 young girls. And in order to make sure that they had a father figure, he went to significant people in his life and asked them if they would consider being a council of dads for his daughters. And I really, really enjoyed that book, even though I read it a while ago. So just wanted to point that out. So not a ton of interest on this shelf. There's a couple yearbooks. You'll see some DVDs over in the corner because this used to be our DVD shelf and then we had to make room for books. But you'll see that I do have a Stephen King book there and then a book about horses and a book about Cleopatra. So yeah, that's actually going to be the end. That's the last little bit that we have of books in our house. And hopefully we'll be getting another bookshelf to kind of spread things out so we don't have to put it on the DVD bookshelf because we need space for the actual DVDs. But yeah, that's the last little bit. And I realize it's not very pretty, but that's just how it is. I wanted you guys to meet Calcifer. This is Calcifer. He doesn't like to be held. So I'm just going to show him to you guys real quick. If you ever hear meowing in the background, that's him, and I'm going to let him down. But yeah, he's named after the little fire demon in Howl's Moving Castle. And that's going to be it for this video today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed the brief bookshelf tour that I gave you. Let me know if you guys want to see a more detailed one where I actually pull out every book and show it to you. I may have to do it by sections, like do the kids section, then do the adult section, and then the nonfiction section, because I think everything together, I think that video would be way too long, but I don't want to do it unless you guys really want it. So let me know if that's something you would be interested in seeing. If you guys enjoyed this video, please go click the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment. Josh and I will try to interact with you guys in the comments as much as possible because we want to get to know you guys. Our Twitter and Instagram are linked down below. Go follow us there. And as always, may your books be many and your interruptions few. Bye, guys. That was bad. Let me do that again. Maybe I stop panting like a crazy person.